Georges St-Pierre is just days away from making his long-awaited return to the UFC. Getty. Georges St-Pierre speaks after his UFC 217 open workout. The former two-time UFC welterweight champion returns to the octagon for the first time in nearly 4 years this Saturday in the main event of UFC 217, which takes place at Madison Square Garden in New York City. The man tasked with the job of welcoming the future UFC Hall of Famer back to the cage is the promotion's middleweight king, Michael Bisping. Unsurprisingly, St-Pierre goes into his comeback bout as the overwhelming underdog. Michael Bisping and Georges St-Pierre's best moments inside the octagon. Michael Bisping takes on Georges St-Pierre at UFC 217. Here are the two fighters' best moments inside the octagon ahead of the bout. 1/20. Getty. Michael Bisping defeats Josh Haynes to win the Ultimate Fighter Season 3. That's largely due to the fact he will compete for the first time in the middleweight division, which he seemingly avoided like the plague during his first UFC stint. Should St-Pierre defy the odds and dethrone Bisping, he will join a select group of fighters. "I'm fighting for my legacy and I'm fighting to be among an elite group of fighters." Georges St-Pierre. Victory over the count will see St-Pierre join Randy Couture, B.J. Penn and Conor McGregor on the list of UFC fighters to hold titles in multiple weight classes, a fact he's all too aware. Speaking shortly after his UFC 217 open workout, St-Pierre said, "There is nothing bigger than this." Getty. Georges St-Pierre challenges Michael Bisping for the middleweight title at UFC 217. Fighting for the title against the guy who has the record for the most wins in UFC history. "I'm fighting for my legacy and I'm fighting to be among an elite group of fighters. Only a few ones have held a title in two different divisions. At a mythical place, Madison Square Garden." After 4 years off, Getty. UFC 217 takes place at Madison Square Garden in New York.